Hey guys, today I have a book for you, Owl Moon, and this one was requested by As by E. So I'm gonna read this one to you today. It's written by Jane Yolen, and it's illustrated by John Schrodenhair. So in this story, this is a personal narrative, so that means that this is a story told from the point of view of one of the characters in the story, and it's told from this child. We're not really sure if it's a boy or a girl, and probably the author did that so that you could step into their shoes no matter if you're a boy or a girl. And the child is going owling with Pa, and that's the child's dad. So I bet you remember what owling is from whenever we read this in class. But owling is when you go looking for owls, right? Not hunting owls, because they're not gonna try to shoot them and eat them or anything. They're just gonna go admire them. So they're going owling, okay? All right, Jan Yolen, Owl Moon. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I hope you're listening for the figurative language that's used. Very beautiful similes. That's whenever you compare two things using like or as. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog answered the train. Then a second dog joined in. They sang aloud, trains and dogs, for a real long time. And when their voices faded away, it was as quiet as a dream. We walked on toward the woods, Pa and I. Did you notice that? As quiet as a dream, that beautiful simile. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and waited. He looked up, as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask. Then he called, "Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo." The sound of a great horned owl. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. Again he called out, and then again. And after each call he was silent, and for a moment we both listened. But though there was no answer, Pa shrugged. And I shrugged. I was not disappointed. My brothers all said, sometimes there's an owl and sometimes there isn't. We walked on. I could feel the cold, as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back. And my nose and the tops of my cheeks felt cold and hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet and make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hide behind black trees in the middle of the night. When you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came back to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. I think that's my favorite simile of this whole thing. Whiter than the milk of a cereal bowl. I sighed and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf over my mouth and listened hard, and then Pa called, hoo hoo, hoo hoo, hoo hoo, hoo hoo, hoo hoo, hoo hoo. I listened and I looked so hard my ears hurt and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came threading its way through the trees. Hoo hoo, hoo hoo, hoo hoo. Pa almost smiled. Then he called back, hoo hoo, hoo hoo, hoo hoo. Just as if he and the owl were talking about supper or the woods or the moon or the cold. I took my mitten off the scarf, off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. The owl's call came closer from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl's shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with heat in our mouths, the heat of all of those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Was it really the shadow that hooted? Who hooted? Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. This next picture is my favorite. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at one another. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without a sound. It flew back into the forest. Time to go home, Pa said to me. I knew then I could talk. I could even laugh out loud. But I was a shadow as we walked home. What does that mean, that he was a shadow? Does that mean that he's literally a shadow on the ground? Or does that mean he's following behind Pa, being very, very quiet like a shadow would be? When you go owling, you don't need words or warm or anything but hope. That's what Pa says, the kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. And I love that story. You guys know I love that story. I want to tell you that soon we're going to be starting school online. I don't really know how it's going to work. I haven't really heard very much, but I do want to tell you, if your parents ask, yes, we're going to be starting some online school soon, and I can't wait to see you guys, and I love you. Bye.